The shadow over Massachusetts Department of Children and Families. It's been 16 months since DCF Commissioner Olga Roche resigned under intense pressure after 4-year-old Jeremiah Oliver died while under the department's supervision. That case sparked public outrage and spurred widespread calls for reform. Now Massachusetts has a new governor, a new DCF commissioner, and a new pair of tragedies to contend with. DCF visited this Auburn foster home just 3 days before Evelina Conway Coxon died. Her foster mom says she found Evelina unresponsive on the floor after giving her a bath. Another toddler taken from the home remains in critical condition. Yesterday at the State House, Governor Charlie Baker grew emotional as he spoke about Conway Coxon's death.
My heart goes out as a father to the foster mom and to the family involved in this most recent tragedy.
In July, Jack Loisel was hospitalized after he was found starving and dehydrated, with bruises on his head and bleach burns on his body. Loisel is currently comatose. His father, Randall Lintz, has been criminally charged. DCF saw Loisel 2.5 weeks earlier. According to Health and Human Services Secretary Mary Lou Sutters, the department's caseloads have been skyrocketing.
December of 2013, there's been a 30% increase in the ongoing cases at the Department of Children and Families.
That's around the time that Jeremiah Oliver disappeared, after DCF workers lied about conducting monthly visits to his family and failed to follow up on allegations of abuse. His body was found on the side of a highway in April of last year. Joining me now to discuss what's changed at DCF and what hasn't are Erin Bradley, the Executive Director of Children's League of Massachusetts, and Peter MacKinnon, the President of the union that represents DCF workers. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
So let me start by asking you, what has improved inside DCF since Olga Roche departed, and what still needs to get better?
Sure. I think from the workers' perspective, we are happy that Commissioner Spears has been willing to engage with the union, engage with frontline workers, to have an honest dialogue about what the systemic problems are at DCF.
That's Linda Spears, the DCF commissioner.
Correct. And to really talk about caseloads. Caseloads are a major issue, and we've had several meetings with her to figure out ways how we can mitigate the caseload crisis that we have and really work to get caseloads down to safe, manageable levels.
Remind me, what is the ratio that, those of you who work at DCF, what's the ratio you want to get to, and what is it right now?
Sure. Right now, the statewide average is about 20 or 21 families per worker, but we have many workers that are carrying many more families than that. National standards say that safe caseloads are no more than 15 families. So we're well over that.
And I swear I'm going to get to you, Erin, but have you gotten closer to that 15 family ideal since Linda Spears took over, or not?
No, as Secretary Sutters pointed out in the piece that we just saw, we've seen a 30% spike in the caseloads in recent months, and we're heading in the wrong direction.
All right, Erin Bradley, as an advocate who watches this stuff from the Children's League, what do you think has improved under Spears, and what maybe has not improved that you would have liked to see get better?
Well, for us personally, we're really happy that Commissioner Spears is making it kind of a uniform, we're all in this together, including providers, including the community, including the workers, which is a definite change that we're really positive about. You know, from a...
Actually, let me just stop you there.
Yeah.
How did Olga Roche not do that? I mean, how did she manifest a sense that not everyone was in this together?
I don't think Commissioner Roche actually had the time to create that type of environment. I think that she was there under the gun. I think that there was a lot of, we're in crisis management almost. And it was more of this is our case or your case. And it wasn't so collegial. Commissioner Spears had the opportunity to come in, really set the tone for the department of how she really wants to work together, build together so that we can have a robust child welfare system in the Commonwealth.
Okay, so you like the collegiality, you like her receptivity to the caseload issue, and yet you two are joining us to talk about these two tragedies that just occurred. What went wrong in these cases? I'd like your takes again from your two different vantage points. Let's start with the Loisel case. What happened there? We've heard that the social worker assigned to, I believe, his case was unlicensed. Correct. Is that part of what went wrong, or is that, am I being a little broad brushed there?
Yeah, I mean, licensure is certainly important. It's something that that we want our social workers to have. It sets a level of professionalism and a standard that we want. But it's not the be-all, end-all by any stretch. And the reality is the folks who are coming into the department and getting hired have bachelor's or master's degrees or higher. So it's not a question of qualifications. Licensure is important, but that may or may not have solved anything in these particular cases.
Do you have any sense in Jack Loisel's case of what didn't occur that should have? I mean, when you hear about a child being starved to this gruesomely low weight, marks on his face, bleach
Right.
marks on his hands and knees, and then you hear that a worker was there 3 days before
And not
he was
just a
hospitalized.
DCF worker. I mean, there were the providers were actually in the home as well, and they were the ones that were also calling DCF saying, we have a situation here. So for me, not only as an advocate but as a mother, we tell our children to tell an adult all the time if something is wrong. And this little boy did that.
By the way, I have to correct myself. I believe a DCF worker was there 2.5 weeks before. It was in
Correct.
the case of Evelina that a worker was there 3 days
3
before.
days.
Right.
Can you tell me, in that case, maybe what, from what we know so far, and I know we don't know everything, what might have gone wrong? Yeah, her dying?
Well, as Erin said, I mean, that's kind of the unknown, and we can't go into too many specifics about that case. But what we do know is that not only DCF, but many providers were working with that family and were in the home with that family. And
And we talk about other providers, by the way, just for people who might not know what that means, like me.
Sure.
What kind of other providers are we talking about?
sure, different community-based therapists and other social service providers that are in the community that aren't DCF employees, but who work with the agency. So there were a lot of people that were out there. And certainly the question I think everyone we're scratching our heads about is, if you have all these people, all these professionals who are out there seeing this family, what was missed? And that's what we don't know yet.
Is one possible answer that what was missed is, let me reframe that. One of the things that we've learned is that 64 calls, I believe, were placed from that
The
home
other case.
in the course of about a decade. And I think, again, for a lot of people who don't follow the system closely or only drop in when tragedies like this occur, it is a surprise to hear that what you would think would be easily flagged as a problem property with residents who might not have the most stable living situation, that can then end up becoming a foster home.
Right.
Is that an issue that maybe should be treated different from a legislative point of view?
It's one of the things that the legislature absolutely can look at when they come back. But remember that this family was quarried and sorried. They had all their fingerprints done. They do an extensive
Criminal check
records,
and sexual offender check.
correct.
Right.
And they do extensive background checks on these families. So in order for anything to pop up for DCF or for a private provider to notice, there'd have to be actual reports from the police. So the police could have come out just because she was dancing around the house with her kids and the music was too loud. I mean,
Right.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
And I was going to say, the police have to respond anytime there's a call.
Right.
And as
But that's so many, though, dozens.
Well, it depends. I mean, and as Secretary Sutter said in the press conference yesterday, the police are mandated reporters too.
Correct.
So if they had gone out there and saw some concerns about that family's ability to care for their children, they would have been filing reports with DCF.
One other issue that seems to me to have been raised by that case is the preference for family unification, which, Peter, I think you and I talked about last year after the Jeremiah Oliver case had played out. Is that, in that case, because he was not in a foster home, he was staying with his biological father, is that something that has shifted much under Linda Spears? Because my sense was that there was maybe a little shift away from the Patrick administration prioritizing family togetherness. Has that shift continued to occur, or am I even describing it incorrectly?
No, I think you're describing it correctly. And what we saw after Jeremiah Oliver's case was the pendulum shifting from family preservation, where you work to keep families always together, well, not always, but to child protection, where I think over the last year and a half, the agency became much more conservative in its decision making, and we were taking custody of kids that maybe a year before we wouldn't have.
You're saying
been
last
taking
year and a
custody.
half up until now.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah. And even with Commissioner Spears coming in, I think she has expressed, well, I know, she's expressed a willingness to look at the practices from Commissioner Roche. But the system really hasn't changed yet. It takes a while to change that system.
but that speaks to the bigger issue, which is the systemic problems. I mean, we were here a year and a half ago having these same conversations, and we really do need to now look at the system as a whole, and what are we doing to make sure that these kids and families are supported the way that they need to be, so that they can go on a trajectory of a successful life that doesn't come back into the child welfare system in 15 years, which is really, we've just now taken so many more kids from their homes. All these kids have been traumatized. What is this going to look like in the next 10 years when they become adults themselves?
All right, Erin Bradley, Peter MacKinnon, we have to leave it there. Thank you both.